My name is Alex, and I never thought I'd be the person telling this story. You know the type of story I'm talking about, the one where you fall for your straight roommate and torture yourself wondering if every glance, every touch, every lingering moment means something more. Yeah, that story. The one that usually ends with heartbreak and an awkward living situation. But here's the thing, I don't know how this story ends yet, and that's what makes it so terrifying. It all started 6 months ago when I moved to Seattle for a marketing job at a tech startup. The rent in this city is absolutely insane, so I did what any reasonable 25-year-old would do. I found a roommate on one of those apartment sharing apps. His name was Ethan Cole, and from his profile picture he looked friendly enough. Sandy brown hair, warm smile seemed normal. That was all I needed to know. What the profile didn't show me was that Ethan would completely turn my world upside down. I still remember the day I moved in. It was a gray Saturday morning in March, typical Seattle weather, not quite raining but threatening to at any moment. I was struggling to carry a particularly heavy box up the 3 flights of stairs to our apartment when the door swung open and there he stood. Need some help with that. And that was my first real look at Ethan Cole. He was taller than I expected, maybe 6'1" to my 5'10". He wore a faded University of Washington t-shirt that fit him just right, showing off broad shoulders and arms that suggested he actually used his gym membership. His hair was slightly messy, like he'd just woken up, and his eyes were this striking hazel color that seemed to shift between green and brown depending on the light. But it was his smile that got me, genuine, warm, reaching all the way to his eyes. "I'm Ethan," he said, reaching for the box without waiting for my answer. "You must be Alex." "Yeah, that's me," I managed, suddenly very aware that I was sweaty and disheveled from moving. "Thanks for the help." "No problem, man. What do you have in here, rocks?" "Books mostly. I know, everything's digital now, but I like the physical copies." He grinned, a man after my own heart. "I've got a whole shelf of sci-fi novels in my room." That first day set the tone for our friendship. Ethan was easy to talk to, laid back but not lazy, funny without trying too hard. He worked as a physical therapist at a sports medicine clinic, which explained the fit physique. He was passionate about hiking, cooking, and apparently poorly rated action movies from the 90s. "I'm talking about the real gems," he explained that first evening as we ate pizza on our second-hand couch. "The ones that are so bad they're good. Have you ever seen Con Air or Face Off?" I laughed. I thought those were actually popular. "Oh, they are, but wait until you see my deep cuts. Demolition Man, The Rock, peak Nicolas Cage era." "You seem to have a thing for Nicolas Cage." "Everyone should have a thing for Nicolas Cage. The man is a national treasure." He paused. "That's also a Nicolas Cage movie, by the way. We're definitely watching that one." Within a week, we had fallen into an easy rhythm. Ethan was a morning person, usually up by 6 for a run or a gym session before work. I was more of a stumble to the coffee maker and grunt kind of morning person. He'd usually be back by the time I was heading out, showered and cheerful, making breakfast and asking if I wanted any. At first, I politely declined. I didn't want to impose or make things weird, but after the third or fourth offer, I accepted and it became our thing. Ethan would make these elaborate breakfasts, omelets, avocado toast, sometimes even pancakes, and we'd sit at our small kitchen table and talk about our plans for the day. He asked about my job, seemed genuinely interested in the campaigns I was working on. I asked about his patients, and he'd tell me funny stories about professional athletes who turned into bobbies when they had to do their rehab exercises. It was comfortable, easy, normal. And I was careful to keep it that way. See, I've been out since I was 19. It wasn't a dramatic coming-out story. My parents were supportive, my friends didn't care, and I moved to a liberal city where being gay wasn't a big deal. I was lucky and I knew it. But I'd also learned to read the room, to gauge people's comfort levels, to not make assumptions about how straight guys would react to living with a gay roommate. So when Ethan asked casually about my dating life during one of our breakfasts, I hesitated for just a moment before answering honestly. "It's been pretty quiet lately. I dated someone last year, but it didn't work out." I watched his face carefully, looking for any sign of discomfort. Instead, he just nodded. "Yeah, what happened?" He wanted different things. He was ready to settle down, get married, adopt a dog, the whole thing. I wasn't there yet. "Fair enough, you're only 25, right? Plenty of time for all that." And that was it. No awkwardness, no weird energy shift, just acceptance. He even asked follow-up questions about what I was looking for in a relationship, the same way any friend would. "So you're not on the apps?" he asked, reaching for another slice of toast. "I am, but Seattle's gay dating scene is interesting. Lots of tech bros, lots of guys who are mask for mask, lots of profiles that say no drama while radiating drama." Ethan laughed. "Sounds like straight dating apps too, honestly. Everyone wants no drama and good vibes only, but nobody wants to actually communicate or be honest about what they want." Exactly, I felt myself relaxing. It's exhausting. Sometimes I think about deleting all of them and just, I don't know, meeting someone organically. Like at a coffee shop, very romantic. I know, it's not realistic, but a guy can dream. What I didn't tell him was that I'd already noticed he was attractive. How could I not? But I'd carefully filed that observation away in the mental folder labeled things that don't matter because he's straight and your roommate. I'd had plenty of practice being friends with attractive straight guys. You just don't go there, you appreciate from a distance and move on. At least that's what I thought. Looking back, I can't pinpoint exactly when the touching started. It was gradual, subtle, the kind of thing that could easily be dismissed as friendly, normal roommate behavior. It started with the casual stuff. A hand on my shoulder when he passed behind me in the kitchen. A pat on the back when I told him about landing a big client at work. His knee bumping against mine when we sat on the couch watching those terrible 90s action movies he loved. Normal friend stuff, right? But then there was the night we watched Point Break, about 3 weeks after I'd moved in. "This is legitimately a great movie," Ethan insisted as he queued it up. "I know I've shown you some questionable choices, but trust me on this one." We settled into our usual spots on the couch, him on the right side, me on the left, with enough space between us for another person. By now we'd fallen into a comfortable routine of movie nights every Friday. Ethan would make popcorn, always with real butter, never microwave. I'd pick out some candy from the store, and we'd settle in for whatever cinematic experience he'd chosen. About 30 minutes into the movie, during a particularly intense surfing scene, I felt Ethan shift closer. Not dramatically, just an inch or two. Then his arm stretched across the back of the couch, not quite touching me but close enough that I could feel the warmth of it. I tried to focus on Patrick Swayze and Keanu Reeves, but I was hyper-aware of Ethan's proximity. His arm was maybe 2 inches from my shoulders. If I leaned back even slightly, I'd be pressing against it. So I didn't lean back, I sat forward slightly, reaching for popcorn I didn't really want. But then, about 20 minutes later, I felt it. His hand dropping down to rest on my shoulder, just resting there casual like it belonged there. My heart started racing. This was fine, this was normal. Guys did this with their friends all the time, it didn't mean anything. Except his thumb started moving, just slightly. A small, almost imperceptible back and forth motion against my shoulder blade. I froze. Was he even aware he was doing it? I glanced over at him, trying to be subtle. His eyes were fixed on the screen, his expression neutral. He didn't look like someone who was consciously touching their roommate in a way that might mean something. So I relaxed, or tried to, but my heart was still pounding and I was suddenly very aware of every point of contact between us. His hand on my shoulder felt like it was burning through my t-shirt. I could smell his cologne, something woodsy and clean. I could hear him breathing. This was not good. When the movie ended, he stretched both arms up over his head and the hand left my shoulder. The loss of contact was both a relief and a disappointment, which was a confusing combination. "So, verdict?" he asked, turning to me with that warm smile. "You were right," I admitted. "That was actually a great movie." "Told you, Catherine Bigelow is a genius, the first woman to win an Oscar for Best Director, you know." "I didn't know that." "Yeah, for The Hurt Locker, she's incredible." He stood up, gathering our empty bowls and candy wrappers. "Want some tea? I'm going to make some." "Sure, thanks." I stayed on the couch trying to process what had just happened. It was nothing, I told myself. Ethan was just a physically affectionate person. Some people were like that. It didn't mean anything. But over the next few weeks, the touching continued and escalated. There was the time he taught me how to make his famous breakfast omelets. He stood behind me at the stove, his chest nearly pressing against my back, his hand covering mine on the spatula. You have to be gentle, he said, his voice low and close to my ear. If you move too fast, the eggs will break apart. See, slow, smooth motions. He guided my hand with his, and I swear I forgot how to breathe. He was so close I could feel the heat radiating off his body. His breath stirred my hair. If I leaned back even slightly, I'd be pressed fully against him. I didn't lean back, but God, I wanted to. There you go, he said after a moment, stepping away. You're getting it. Practice a few more times and you'll be a pro. Then there was the hiking trip. Ethan had been trying to get me to go hiking with him since I moved in. You can't live in the Pacific Northwest and not take advantage of the mountains, he insisted. Besides, you need to see more than just your office and our apartment. I finally agreed to go on a Saturday in early May. Ethan drove us out to a trail near Snoqualmie Falls, chatting the whole way about the route we'd take and the views we'd see. It's about 6 miles round trip, he explained. Some elevation gain, but nothing too intense for a first-timer. Trust me, you'll love it. He was right. Despite my initial skepticism, I was more of an indoor person. There was something meditative about being in the forest, surrounded by towering evergreens and the sound of birds and distant waterfalls. Ethan was patient with my slower pace, never making me feel bad about stopping to catch my breath or take photos. This is amazing, I admitted when we reached a viewpoint overlooking a valley. I can't believe I've lived here for 2 months and this is my first time doing this. Right, there's something about being out here that just clears your head. He took a long drink from his water bottle, then turned to me. I'm glad you came, it's more fun with company. Even when that company is slow and out of shape. Hey, you're doing great for your first time. Besides, he reached over and squeezed my bicep playfully. You're not that out of shape. I think there might be some muscle hiding under here. His hand lingered for a moment longer than necessary and his eyes met mine. Something flickered in his expression, something I couldn't quite read, before he turned back to the trail. Come on, the falls are just another half mile. The falls were spectacular, and Ethan insisted on taking a photo of the two of us in front of them. He asked another hiker to take the picture, then positioned himself next to me, his arms sliding around my waist. Smile, the other hiker called out. I smiled, hyper-aware of Ethan's hand on my hip, his body pressed against my side. The photo was taken, we thanked the hiker, but Ethan's arm stayed where it was for another moment before he stepped away to look at the picture on his phone. Great shot, he said, showing it to me. I'm sending this to you. In the photo, we looked like a couple. Both smiling, Ethan's arm around me pressed close together with the waterfall in the background. My heart did a complicated flip-flop in my chest. On the hike back down, the trail narrowed in several places, forcing us to walk single file. Whenever we came to a tricky spot, roots across the path, loose rocks, a small stream to cross, Ethan would turn back and offer me his hand. Here, let me help you. Every time I took it, and every time his grip was firm and warm, his hand engulfing mine. He'd help me across or down or over whatever obstacle was in our way, and then his hand would linger for just a beat longer than necessary before letting go. By the time we got back to the car, my emotions were a tangled mess. On one hand, I'd had a genuinely great day. Ethan was fun to hang out with, the hike had been beautiful, and I felt accomplished. On the other hand, I was developing feelings I absolutely should not be developing. That night, lying in bed, I gave myself a stern talking to. Ethan was straight. He'd mentioned an ex-girlfriend once briefly when we were talking about past relationships. The touching was just how he was, friendly, warm, physically affectionate. I was reading into it because I was attracted to him, but that didn't mean anything was actually there. I needed to get a grip. So I tried, I really did. I went on a few dates with guys from the apps. There was Marcus, a software engineer who talked about cryptocurrency for an hour and a half. There was David, a teacher who was nice enough but there was zero chemistry. There was Tyler, who I actually kind of liked, but he ghosted me after our second date. Ethan always asked how they went. So, how was the date? He'd say when I got home, looking up from his book or his laptop with genuine interest. It was fine, I'd say, which became my standard response. Just fine, that's not very promising. Yeah, well, the search continues. Sometimes I thought I saw something flash across his face, disappointment. relief, but it always disappeared so quickly I convinced myself I was imagining it. Things really started to get confusing in June. It was a Friday night and we'd fallen into our usual movie routine. This time, Ethan had chosen Keanu classic, he'd proclaimed. I was starting to suspect he just had a thing for Keanu Reeves, but I kept that observation to myself. We were about halfway through the movie when my phone buzzed. It was a message from Tyler, the guy who'd ghosted me 3 weeks earlier. Tyler *, hey, sorry I disappeared. Things got crazy with work. Want to try again, dinner tomorrow. I stared at the message, debating how to respond. On one hand, I'd actually liked Tyler. He was cute, worked in environmental conservation, made me laugh. On the other hand, who ghosts someone for 3 weeks and then just pops back up? Everything okay? Ethan asked. Yeah, just remember Tyler, the guy who ghosted me. The conservation guy, yeah. He just texted asking me out again. I couldn't read Ethan's expression. What are you going to say? I don't know, part of me wants to tell him to get lost, but part of me thinks I should give him another chance. What does your gut tell you? I thought about it. My gut says he's probably going to do the same thing again, but my brain says I'm being too judgmental and I should at least hear him out. Ethan was quiet for a moment. I think you should do whatever feels right to you, but for what it's worth, I think you deserve someone who doesn't disappear on you for 3 weeks with no explanation. There was something in his voice, an intensity that made me look over at him. His jaw was tight, and he was staring at the TV screen with more focus than the movie warranted. You're probably right, I said slowly. I typed out a response to Tyler, politely but firmly turning him down. When I set my phone aside, I felt Ethan relax beside me. Good choice, he said quietly. A few minutes later, I felt his hand find mine on the couch cushion between us. Not holding it exactly, just resting against it, his pinky finger hooked over mine. My breath caught. This felt different from the other touches, more deliberate, more intimate. I didn't move, didn't pull away, didn't lean into it. I just sat there, frozen, feeling the warmth of his hand against mine and wondering what the hell was happening. We stayed like that for the rest of the movie. When the credits rolled, he squeezed my hand once before letting go and standing up. I'm beat, he said, stretching. I think I'm going to head to bed. Yeah, me too. That night, I barely slept. I kept replaying the moment over and over, trying to understand what it meant. Ethan had deliberately sought out my hand, had held it in a way for 30 minutes. That wasn't nothing. But it also wasn't everything. Maybe he was just being comforting. Maybe he'd sensed I was upset about Tyler and was offering support the only way he knew how. Or maybe, and this was the thought that kept me awake until 3 in the morning, maybe he was feeling something too. The next day was Saturday, and I woke up late to find Ethan in the kitchen making pancakes. Morning, sleepyhead, he said cheerfully. Want some? Sure, thanks. We ate breakfast together and everything seemed normal. He told me about a patient he was working with, a marathon runner recovering from a stress fracture. I told him about the new campaign my team was pitching. It was comfortable, easy, just like always. But there was something different in the way he looked at me. His eyes lingered a moment longer than usual. When he handed me the syrup, his fingers brushed against mine and stayed there for a heartbeat. After breakfast, he asked if I wanted to go with him to run some errands. I need to hit the grocery store and the hardware store. Exciting stuff, I know, but I could use the company. I said yes because apparently I was a masochist who enjoyed torturing himself. At the grocery store, we fell into an easy rhythm. Ethan pushed the cart while I checked items off his list. We debated the merits of different pasta sauces, argued about whether we needed more coffee, we did, and got momentarily distracted by a display of fancy olive oils. We should try this one, Ethan said, picking up a bottle of truffle-infused olive oil. I've been wanting to make this mushroom risotto recipe. Wait. Well, yeah, I'll make it, but you should help. You're getting pretty good in the kitchen. I can barely make an omelet without your supervision. That's not true. Last week you made those eggs all by yourself and they were great. I felt absurdly pleased by this compliment. In the produce section, Ethan was examining avocados when an older woman approached us. Excuse me, she said with a warm smile. I don't mean to intrude, but you two are such a cute couple. How long have you been together? My brain short-circuited. Oh, we're not. 5 months, Ethan said smoothly, his arm sliding around my waist. Still pretty new. The woman beamed. Well, you make a lovely pair. My husband and I have been together for 40 years and I can always spot a couple in love. You have that look. Thank you, Ethan said, squeezing my waist. That's very kind of you to say. The woman walked away and Ethan's arm stayed around me for another moment before he stepped away to grab a bag of avocados. Why did you? I started. Sorry, he said, not meeting my eyes. It seemed easier than explaining. I hope that was okay. It's fine, just surprised me. But it wasn't fine. My heart was racing, my skin felt electric where his arm had been, and I was more confused than ever. Why would he do that? If he was uncomfortable being perceived as gay, he could have just corrected the woman, but instead he'd leaned into it. He'd claimed we'd been together for 5 months, which was exactly how long we'd been roommates. Was that a coincidence? The rest of the shopping trip passed in a blur. Ethan seemed normal, chatting about what meals he wanted to cook that week, asking my opinion on different items. But I was in my own head, spiraling. When we got home and were putting groceries away, Ethan turned to me suddenly. Hey, about earlier at the store, I'm sorry if I made you uncomfortable. You didn't, I said quickly, it just caught me off guard. I know it probably seems weird, but I just didn't feel like dealing with that whole conversation, you know? And it's not like it matters what some random stranger thinks about us. Right? No, I get it. He studied my face for a moment. Are you sure? Because you seem, I don't know, off. I'm fine, really. But I wasn't fine, nothing was fine, because here's what I'd realized: I was falling for Ethan. Hard, and every touch, every lingering look, every moment like the one in the grocery store was making it worse. I needed to do something. I needed to either talk to him about what was happening or I needed to create some distance. This in-between state was killing me. That night I made a decision. I was going to talk to him. I was going to ask him directly what all the touching meant, whether he felt anything or whether I was just reading into normal friendly behavior. I rehearsed what I was going to say. I'd wait until we were sitting on the couch for our movie night and then I'd just say it, be honest, be direct. But when Friday night came around again, I chickened out. Ethan made his famous truffle risotto, which was absolutely incredible. We ate on the couch while watching The Rock, peak 90s action cinema, Ethan declared. He sat closer than usual, our thighs pressed together, and halfway through the movie, his hand found its way to my knee. Just resting there, his thumb drawing small circles on my leg. I should have said something, should have asked what this meant, but I didn't want to break the moment, didn't want to hear him say it didn't mean anything. So I sat there in silence, feeling his hand on my knee and hating myself for being too scared to ask the question that was consuming me. What are we doing, Ethan? The turning point came in mid-July, when Ethan's friend Ryan invited us to a party. It's his birthday, Ethan explained. He's having a big thing at his place on Saturday, we should go. I asked. Yeah, I told him I'd come and that I'd bring my roommate. He said the more the merrier. I felt a little flutter of something. Ethan wanted me to meet his friends. That felt significant, though I couldn't say exactly why. Sure, sounds fun. The party was at a house in Ballard, already crowded when we arrived. Ryan greeted us at the door, a tall, athletic guy with a big smile and the kind of effortless charm that suggested he'd never had trouble making friends. Ethan, you made it. He pulled Ethan into a hug, then turned to me. And you must be Alex. Ethan's told me a lot about you. He has. Oh yeah, you're all he talks about lately. Ryan's grin widened. Ethan's roommate this, Ethan's roommate that. Shut up, Ryan, Ethan said, but he was laughing. His ears were slightly pink. Ryan introduced us to a bunch of people, other physical therapists from Ethan's clinic, some friends from college, neighbors. The house was packed, music was loud, and drinks were flowing freely. I lost track of Ethan for a while as I got caught up in a conversation with a woman named Sarah who worked in marketing at a different tech company. We bonded over our shared frustration with client demands and the Seattle job market. But I kept catching glimpses of Ethan across the room. He was in his element, laughing with friends, gesturing animatedly as he told some story, completely relaxed and comfortable. He looked good too, wearing a dark blue button-down that made his eyes look more green than brown. At one point, I saw him talking to a blonde woman who kept touching his arm and laughing at everything he said. Something unpleasant twisted in my chest. Was she flirting with him? Was he flirting back? I turned back to Sarah, trying to focus on what she was saying about her latest project, but I couldn't stop myself from glancing over every few minutes. About an hour into the party, I felt a hand on my lower back. I turned to find Ethan beside me, holding 2 beers. "Brought you a drink," he said. "You looked like you might need one." "Thanks," I took the beer, hyper-aware of his hand still resting on my back. "Sarah, you don't mind if I steal Alex away for a bit, do you?" Ethan asked. "Not at all, nice talking to you, Alex." Ethan guided me through the crowd, his hand never leaving my back. We ended up on a quieter deck outside where a few people were smoking and chatting in small groups. "Having fun?" he asked. "Yeah, your friends seem great, everyone's been really welcoming." "They liked you," Ryan texted me earlier and said, and I quote, "Your roommate is cool as hell." I felt absurdly pleased. "Who was that woman you were talking to, the blonde one?" Ethan's eyebrows rose. "Jessica, she's a nurse at our clinic, why?" "Just wondering," she seemed friendly. A slow smile spread across Ethan's face. "Were you jealous?" "What, no, I was just asking." "You were totally jealous," he looked delighted by this. "I wasn't," I stopped, realizing that protesting too much would just confirm his theory. "She was touching your arm a lot." "Jessica touches everyone's arms, it's her thing." He moved closer and suddenly we were standing very close together. "But even if she was flirting with me, which I don't think she was, I wouldn't be interested." "No." "No," his eyes held mine. "I'm interested in someone else." My heart stopped, the noise of the party faded away. The only thing I could focus on was Ethan's face. The intensity in his gaze, the way he was looking at me like he wanted to kiss me. "Ethan," I started. "Alex, I need to tell you something." "Ethan, there you are." We both jumped apart as Ryan burst onto the deck, clearly several drinks in and very cheerful. "Come on, man, we're about to do karaoke. You promised you'd do, don't stop believin' with me." "Ryan, I'm in the middle of." "No excuses, it's my birthday." Ryan grabbed Ethan's arm and started pulling him back toward the house. Ethan looked back at me, frustrated and apologetic. "Hold that thought," he called out. I nodded, but my hands were shaking. What had just happened? What was he going to tell me? "I'm interested in someone else." Did he mean me? He had to mean me. The way he was looking at me, standing so close the whole moment, it had to mean me. Unless I was completely misreading everything. I stayed on the deck for a few minutes, trying to calm my racing heart. Inside, I could hear the karaoke starting up, Ethan and Ryan belting out Journey with enthusiasm if not talent. People were cheering and laughing. I should go inside, I should be there with Ethan enjoying the party. But I needed a moment to process what had almost happened. When I finally went back inside, I found Ethan had been pulled into a group of people by the makeshift karaoke setup. He caught my eye and smiled, but Ryan kept passing him the microphone for different songs. The moment had passed. The rest of the party was fun. I did end up singing a terrible rendition of "Livin' on a Prayer" with Sarah and some other people I'd met, but I couldn't stop thinking about what Ethan had been about to say. Around midnight, people started leaving. Ethan found me in the kitchen where I was helping clean up some of the cups and plates. "Ready to head out?" he asked. "Yeah, sure." We said our goodbyes to Ryan and made our way to Ethan's car. The drive home was quiet, both of us seemingly lost in thought. When we got back to the apartment, I expected Ethan to bring up what he'd been about to say at the party, but he just said goodnight and headed to his room. I lay in bed for hours, unable to sleep, replaying every moment of the evening. The way he'd looked at me on the deck. The intensity in his voice when he said he was interested in someone else. "I'm interested in someone else." Those words played on repeat in my mind until the sun started coming up. The next day, Sunday, was awkward. We both seemed to be avoiding each other, which was difficult in a 2-bedroom apartment. I stayed in my room working on some projects until mid-afternoon. When I finally emerged, I found Ethan on the couch reading a book. "Hey," he said, looking up. "Hey. Want some coffee? I just made a fresh pot." "Sure, thanks." I poured myself a cup and stood in the kitchen, unsure what to do. Should I bring up last night? Should I ask him what he was going to say? Before I could decide, Ethan spoke. "About last night." "Yes. I'm sorry if I made things weird. I'd had a couple drinks and I wasn't thinking clearly." My heart sank. "Oh, right. I just don't want things to be awkward between us. You're my best friend here and I value that too much to mess it up." Best friend, there it was, the friend zone, explicit and clear. "No, you're right, we're friends, it's all good." Ethan looked relieved. "Good, I'm glad." And just like that, it was over. Whatever moment we'd almost had, whatever he'd been about to say, it didn't matter. He'd clarified we were friends. I should have been relieved. It was a clear answer, no more confusion. But instead, I felt crushed. Over the next couple weeks, I tried to create some distance. Not in an obvious way. I still hung out with Ethan, still had our movie nights and breakfasts, but I pulled back emotionally. I stopped reading into every touch, every look. I reminded myself constantly that we were just friends. Ethan seemed to notice something was off. "Are you okay?" he asked one evening. "You seem distant lately." "I'm fine, just busy with work." "If I did something to upset you." "You didn't, I promise, everything's fine." But everything wasn't fine. I started spending more time out of the apartment. I joined a gym, started going to happy hours with coworkers, even downloaded the dating apps again, though I couldn't bring myself to actually go on any dates. Ethan didn't seem to understand what was happening. He'd look at me with this confused, hurt expression when I'd make excuses about why I couldn't watch a movie with him or why I was eating dinner in my room. "Did I do something wrong?" he asked finally, cornering me in the kitchen one evening. "No, of course not." "Then why are you avoiding me?" "I'm not avoiding you, I'm just busy." "Bull, you're avoiding me, and I want to know why." His eyes were intense, searching my face. He was standing close, too close, and I could feel my carefully constructed walls starting to crumble. "Ethan, please just drop it." "No, I'm not going to drop it. We were fine, and then suddenly you're acting like you can barely stand to be in the same room as me. What changed?" "Nothing changed." "Alex," he stepped even closer, his voice softening. "Talk to me, please." And that's when I broke. "You want to know what changed? Fine, I'll tell you." The words came tumbling out before I could stop them. "I developed feelings for you, okay? Real feelings, and I know you're straight and I know we're just friends and I know I'm being ridiculous, so I've been trying to get over it by creating some distance. That's what changed." Ethan stared at me, his expression unreadable. The silence stretched between us, heavy and suffocating. "I'm sorry," I said quickly. "I know this is probably making you uncomfortable. I'll start looking for a new place." "I'm not straight." I froze. "What?" "I'm not straight," he repeated, his voice barely above a whisper. "I'm bisexual. I've known since college, but I've only dated women because it was easier, less complicated." My brain couldn't process what he was saying. "But you never said anything. You talked about your ex-girlfriend." "I know, and I'm sorry. I should have told you, but He ran a hand through his hair, frustrated. "I didn't know how, and then I started developing feelings for you and I panicked." "You have feelings for me?" "Are you kidding?" He laughed, but it sounded strained. "Alex, I've been half in love with you since you moved in. Why do you think I've been finding every excuse to touch you, to spend time with you?" I felt like the ground had shifted beneath my feet. "But at the party, you said we were friends." Because I lost my nerve, I was about to tell you how I felt, and then Ryan interrupted, and by the time we got home, I'd convinced myself that you couldn't possibly feel the same way, so I backed down. We stood there staring at each other, both breathing hard. "So all this time," I said slowly, "when I thought I was reading too much into things." "You weren't. I was trying to show you how I felt without actually saying it because I was terrified of ruining everything." He took a step closer. "I'm sorry, I should have just been honest from the beginning." "I should have too." "So what now?" he asked. I looked at him, really looked at him. At the vulnerability in his eyes, the way he was holding his breath waiting for my answer, the slight tremor in his hands that suggested he was just as nervous as I was. Now, I said, closing the distance between us, I think you should kiss me. His eyes widened. Yeah. Yeah. And he did. It was tentative at first, soft and questioning, like he was afraid I might pull away. But when I kissed him back, threading my fingers through his hair, he made this small sound in the back of his throat and pulled me closer. It felt like coming home, like every touch, every lingering look, every confused moment over the past 5 months had been building to this. When we finally broke apart, both breathless, Ethan rested his forehead against mine. I've wanted to do that for so long, he murmured. Me too. I'm sorry I made this so complicated, I should have just told you. We both should have, I smiled, but we're telling each other now. He kissed me again, slower this time, deeper, and I felt like my heart might burst out of my chest. The next morning, I woke up in Ethan's bed. Nothing had happened beyond kissing, a lot of kissing, but eventually we'd migrated from the kitchen to his room and fallen asleep tangled together. Now, with early morning light filtering through his curtains, I could study his face without him knowing. He looked peaceful in sleep, his hair messy, his features relaxed. I still couldn't quite believe this was real. His eyes fluttered open, and when he saw me, a slow smile spread across his face. Hi, he said, his voice rough with sleep. Hi. So last night really happened. It really happened. He reached out and traced my jawline with his thumb. Good, I was worried I might have dreamed it. If you dreamed it, then we're having the same dream. Best dream ever, he leaned in and kissed me, soft and sweet, and I felt that same rush of joy from the night before. When we finally got out of bed, everything felt different, not bad different, just new. We moved around each other in the kitchen making breakfast, but now there were casual touches, stolen kisses, hands finding each other naturally. So, Ethan said as we sat down with our coffee and eggs, we should probably talk about this. Yeah, I agreed. What are we doing? Well, I'd like to date you, if you want that too. I definitely want that. His smile was radiant. Good, great, amazing. But we should probably take it slow, I added. Figure things out, you've never dated a guy before. I've never dated anyone I've felt this strongly about before, he interrupted. Guy, girl, doesn't matter, this is different. How? He thought for a moment. With my ex, Sarah, things were comfortable, easy. We liked each other, we got along, but there was never this intensity. I never felt like I couldn't breathe when she walked in a room. I never found excuses to touch her every chance I got. You did that with me. Constantly, it was borderline pathological, he laughed. Ryan actually called me out on it at the party, said I was being obvious. I thought I was going crazy. Every time you'd touch me, I'd convince myself it didn't mean anything, and then you'd do it again and I'd spiral. I'm sorry, I was being a coward. We both were. We spent the rest of the morning talking, really talking. Ethan told me about realizing he was bisexual in college, about the handful of guys he'd kissed at parties but never pursued anything with, about his fear of coming out to his family even though he was pretty sure they'd be supportive. My mom has literally asked me multiple times if I'm sure I'm not gay, he said with a laugh. She'd probably throw a party if I brought home a boyfriend. So why didn't you date guys, I mean? He sighed. Honestly, internalized biphobia probably. It felt safer to date women, more normal. I know that's messed up, but I thought if I just focused on women I could ignore the other part. And then I moved in. And then you moved in and suddenly I couldn't ignore it anymore. He reached across the table and took my hand. You kind of wrecked all my plans to stay safely in the closet. Sorry. Don't be. Best thing that ever happened to me. Over the next few weeks, we fell into a new rhythm. We were still roommates, still had our movie nights and breakfasts together, but now there was this whole other dimension to our relationship. Ethan was affectionate, even more than before, if that was possible. He'd pull me into his lap while we watched TV, or come up behind me while I was cooking and wrap his arms around my waist, or kiss me goodbye in the morning before work like it was the most natural thing in the world. And it was natural, that was the surprising part. Despite all the confusion and complication that had led to this point, being with Ethan felt effortless. You're smiling at your phone, my coworker Jenna observed one afternoon. New boyfriend. I looked up, realizing I'd been grinning at a text from Ethan, something like that. Something like that, either you have a boyfriend or you don't. I have a boyfriend, I said, testing out the words. They felt good. And details, please, how did you meet? He's actually my roommate. Her eyes widened. Your roommate? Isn't that complicated? It's surprisingly not. We were friends first and then, I shrugged, things developed. Well, you look happy, really happy. I don't think I've ever seen you smile this much. She was right, I was happy, deliriously, almost obnoxiously happy. But of course, nothing is ever simple. About a month into officially dating, Ethan asked if I wanted to go out with him and some friends from his clinic. Just drinks after work on Friday, he said, nothing fancy, but I'd like them to meet you as my boyfriend. Your boyfriend, I repeated, loving the way it sounded. Is that okay? I know we haven't really talked about being out or. It's more than okay, I'd love to. So Friday evening, we met up with Ryan, Jessica the nurse, and two other PTs from Ethan's clinic at a bar in Capitol Hill. Everyone was welcoming and friendly, and if they were surprised that Ethan was dating a guy, they didn't show it. Finally, Ryan said when we arrived, pulling Ethan into a hug, I've been waiting for you two to get your act together since the party. You knew? Ethan asked. Dude, everyone knew, the way you looked at each other, the constant touching. We had a pool going at the clinic for when you'd finally make a move. A pool, I said. Jessica laughed. I won, by the way, I said within 3 months of the party. Ethan groaned, I can't believe you guys. Hey, we're just happy for you, one of the other PTs, Marcus, said. You've been talking about Alex nonstop since he moved in. It's nice to finally meet the guy who made Ethan Cole lose his cool. The evening was fun. Ethan's friends were easy to talk to, full of embarrassing stories about Ethan at work and genuinely welcoming. Ryan made a point of telling me that he'd never seen Ethan this happy. Seriously, man, he said when Ethan stepped away to get another round of drinks. He's like a different person, more relaxed, more himself. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it. When Ethan came back, he slid into the booth next to me and immediately put his arm around my shoulders, pulling me close. It was such a casual, natural gesture, but I noticed Jessica smile at us. Later, when we were walking home, the bar was close enough to our apartment. Ethan took my hand. That went well, he said. Your friends are great. They really like you. Ryan texted me while you were in the bathroom and said, and I quote, if you screw this up, I'm never forgiving you. I laughed, no pressure. He's right though, I don't want to screw this up. He stopped walking and turned to face me. Alex, I know we've only been officially together for a month, but I need you to know that this isn't casual for me. You're not just some guy I'm trying things out with. I know that. Do you? Because I need you to really know it. I've never felt this way about anyone, and I know I was an idiot for not saying something sooner, but I'm saying it now. I'm all in. My heart swelled. I'm all in too. He kissed me right there on the sidewalk, and I didn't care who saw. In September, Ethan's mom called to say she was coming to Seattle for a conference and wanted to have dinner with him. She wants to meet you too, Ethan said after hanging up, looking nervous. As your roommate or your boyfriend? I haven't told her yet about us, but I want to. He ran a hand through his hair. I've been meaning to. I wanted to tell her in person. You don't have to tell her because of me, if you're not ready. I'm ready. I want her to know. I'm just nervous about how she'll react. You said she's asked if you're gay before. Yeah, but asking and having it confirmed are two different things. I reached over and took his hand. Whatever happens, I'm here, okay? He squeezed my hand. Okay. Ethan's mom, Patricia, was a warm, energetic woman in her late 50s with Ethan's same hazel eyes and ready smile. She hugged me when we met at the restaurant, holding on just a moment longer than strictly necessary. So you're the famous Alex, she said. Ethan talks about you constantly. All good things, I hope. Very good things. She gave Ethan a knowing look that made him blush. Dinner started off normally enough. Patricia asked about my job, my family, how I was liking Seattle. She told stories about Ethan as a kid that had both of us laughing. He was such a serious child, she said, always taking care of everyone else, making sure everyone was okay. I used to worry he wasn't letting himself just be a kid. Mom, Ethan protested. What? It's true, you've always put everyone else first. She turned to me. Is he like that with you, always making sure you're taken care of? He is, I admitted. He makes me breakfast every morning, checks in during the day, makes sure I'm eating enough vegetables. Patricia laughed. That's my boy. After the main course, there was a lull in the conversation. Ethan took a deep breath. Mom, I need to tell you something. She set down her wine glass, her expression immediately concerned. What is it? Alex and I, we're not just roommates, we're dating. Patricia blinked, then a smile slowly spread across her face. Oh, thank God. Ethan looked stunned. What? Ethan Cole, I have been waiting for you to figure this out for years. She reached across the table and took both his hands. Sweetheart, I've known you were bisexual since you were in high school. You have. A mother knows, and I've been hoping you'd eventually find someone who made you as happy as you clearly are now. She turned to me. No offense to Sarah, she was lovely, but I've never seen Ethan light up the way he does when he talks about you. Ethan looked like he might cry. So you're okay with this? Okay with it? I'm thrilled. She stood up and came around the table to hug him. My darling boy, I just want you to be happy, and if Alex makes you happy, then I love him already. I felt a lump in my throat watching them. Ethan had been so nervous and his mom had just accepted it. No drama, no disappointment, just love. When Patricia returned to her seat, she wiped her eyes. Sorry, I'm getting emotional, but really I'm so happy for both of you. How long has this been going on? About 2 months officially, Ethan said, but I've had feelings for him since he moved in. And you, Patricia asked me. Same, I admitted. It took us a while to figure things out. The best things usually do, she raised her wine glass, to new beginnings and figuring things out. We clinked glasses and I felt Ethan's hand find mine under the table, squeezing tight. After dinner, as we walked Patricia back to her hotel, she pulled me aside while Ethan was hailing a cab. Take care of him, she said quietly. He acts tough, but he feels everything deeply, and he's clearly head over heels for you. I'm head over heels for him too, I said honestly. Good, she smiled. Welcome to the family, Alex. That night back at the apartment, Ethan was quieter than usual. We lay in his bed and I could tell he was processing everything. You okay? I asked. Yeah, more than okay, I didn't realize how much I needed her approval, how scared I was that she'd be disappointed. She wasn't just not disappointed, she was happy for you. She really was, he turned to face me. Thank you for being there tonight. Where else would I be? He kissed me soft and slow and whispered, I love you. My breath caught, it was the first time either of us had said it. I love you too, I said, and felt him smile against my lips. It happened in October, on what should have been a normal Saturday. I'd gone out with some coworkers for drinks the night before and had come home later than expected. Ethan was already asleep, so I'd quietly gotten ready for bed and slipped in beside him. When I woke up the next morning, he wasn't there. I found him in the kitchen and the energy immediately felt off. Morning, I said cautiously. Morning, his tone was clipped. Everything okay? Fine. I poured myself coffee, watching him. He was aggressively chopping vegetables for what looked like an omelet and his jaw was tight. Ethan, what's wrong? Nothing, I said, I'm fine. You're clearly not fine. He set down the knife with more force than necessary. You didn't text me last night. What? You said you'd text me when you were heading home. You didn't. I stayed up worrying until you walked in at 1 in the morning. Oh crap. I'm sorry, I completely forgot. We were having fun and I lost track of time. You lost track of time, he repeated flatly. It wasn't a big deal, I was just out with coworkers. It is a big deal when I'm sitting here imagining you got hit by a car or mugged or, he stopped, running a hand through his hair. Do you know what it's like to care about someone and not know if they're safe? Ethan, I'm sorry, but you're kind of overreacting. His eyes flashed. I'm overreacting, Alex. I asked for one thing, one simple thing, just let me know you got home safe. And I forgot, it happens. Why are you making such a big deal out of this? Because it matters to me, you matter to me. I matter to you so much that you need to track my every move. He flinched like I'd slapped him. That's not what this is. Really, because it feels pretty controlling. Controlling, I asked you to send one text. That's not controlling, that's basic consideration. Or it's you being overprotective and anxious about everything. The words were out before I could stop them, and I immediately regretted them. Ethan's face went carefully blank. Right, he said quietly, I'm just anxious, got it. Ethan, I need some space. He grabbed his keys and jacket. I'm going for a run. It's raining. I don't care. He left, and I stood in the kitchen feeling like the world's biggest asshole. He was right, I had said I'd text him, and I'd forgotten, and instead of just apologizing, I'd gotten defensive and said something hurtful. I texted him immediately. I'm sorry, you were right, I should have texted you, and I shouldn't have called you overprotective, that was unfair. No response. An hour passed, then two. The apartment felt empty and wrong without him in it. I tried calling, it went to voicemail. Hey, it's me, I'm really sorry about earlier, can we talk, please call me back. Another hour, still nothing. I was starting to get genuinely worried when the door finally opened. Ethan walked in, soaking wet, his hair plastered to his head. Jesus, how long were you out there? I grabbed a towel from the bathroom and handed it to him. A while, he dried his hair but wouldn't meet my eyes. Ethan, I'm sorry, really sorry, you were right to be upset and I was a jerk. You were, he agreed quietly. I should have texted you, and I shouldn't have said those things about you being overprotective, that wasn't fair. He was quiet for a long moment. My dad died in a car accident when I was 18. I felt my stomach drop. What? He went to the grocery store, just a normal Saturday afternoon, said he'd be back in an hour, and then the police showed up. His voice was carefully controlled, but I could hear the emotion underneath. So yeah, when someone I care about says they'll let me know when they get home safe and then doesn't, I worry, because I know how fast everything can change. Ethan, I'm so sorry, I didn't know. I should have told you before, but it's not something I like to talk about. He finally looked at me and his eyes were red. I'm not trying to control you, I just need to know you're okay. I pulled him into a hug, not caring that he was soaking wet. I understand, and I'm sorry, I'll always text you from now on, I promise. He held onto me tightly. I'm sorry too, for shutting down and leaving like that. You needed space, that's okay. It's not okay, we're supposed to talk about things, not run away when it gets hard. We stood there in the hallway holding each other, and I realized this was the first real test of our relationship, and we'd made it through. We're going to fight sometimes, I said softly. We're going to mess up and hurt each other, but as long as we keep talking, keep being honest, we'll be okay. Promise. Promise. He pulled back and gave me a weak smile. I'm freezing, I need a hot shower. Go, I'll make lunch. I was supposed to make you breakfast. I'll survive one morning without your famous omelets, go warm up. While he showered, I made grilled cheese sandwiches and tomato soup, comfort food. When he came out, dressed in sweats and looking more like himself, I'd already set up lunch at the kitchen table. Grilled cheese, he smiled. You remember that's my sick day food. You're not sick, but you did run in the rain for 3 hours like a dramatic movie protagonist, so I figured it applied. He laughed, and just like that, things felt normal again. We ate lunch together, talking about nothing important, just being together. And I realized that this, working through the hard stuff, forgiving each other, choosing to stay, this was love too. Not just the butterflies and romance, but the commitment to figure it out even when it was difficult. After lunch, we ended up on the couch. Ethan told me more about his dad, about the grief he'd carried, about how it shaped him. I think that's why I became a PT, he said. I wanted to help people heal, physically at least, because I couldn't fix anything when it mattered most. You help people every day, I said. Your patients are lucky to have you, and I'm lucky to have you. Even when I'm anxious and overprotective. Especially then, because it means you care, and I never have to wonder if you care about me. He kissed me, slow and sweet, and I felt grateful for this imperfect, beautiful thing we were building together. Winter came to Seattle, which meant even more rain and the occasional snow. Ethan and I fell into an even deeper rhythm, learning each other's quirks and needs. I learned that he got quiet when he was stressed about work and needed space to process. He learned that I got anxious about my projects and needed reassurance that I wasn't failing. I learned that he loved being outside, even in the rain, and that nature calmed him. He learned that I showed love through acts of service and that I needed verbal affirmation. We had another fight in November, this one about me leaving dishes in the sink, which seemed petty until Ethan explained that it made him feel like I wasn't respecting our shared space. We talked it through, I made more effort, and he made an effort to speak up sooner before small annoyances became big issues. In December, we hosted a holiday party at our apartment. Ethan's friends from work, my friends from my job, some neighbors, our worlds mixing and blending. Ryan got drunk and made a toast about how he'd seen this coming from day one. From the moment Ethan started talking about his new roommate, I knew, Ryan slurred, raising his beer. I told him, dude, you're so gone for this guy. And he denied it, but look at them now. Everyone laughed and clinked glasses. Ethan just shook his head, but he was smiling, his arm around my waist. Ryan's not wrong, he murmured in my ear. I was gone for you from the start. Good thing I was gone for you too. Best roommate situation ever. On Christmas Eve, we were lying in bed, and Ethan turned to me suddenly. Move into my room with me. What? Permanently, we basically sleep in here every night anyway, let's make it official. Move your stuff in, turn your old room into an office or a guest room or whatever. Are you sure? I've never been more sure of anything. He propped himself up on one elbow, looking down at me. Alex, I know it's only been a few months, but this is it for me, you're it for me. My heart swelled, you're it for me too. So will you officially move in with me? I'm already living with you, technically. You know what I mean, will you share a bedroom with me, share a closet, share everything? Yes, absolutely yes. He kissed me deep and passionate, and I felt like the luckiest person in the world. Over the next week, we moved my stuff from my old room into his. It was surprisingly easy, our things mixing together naturally. My books next to his sci-fi novels, my toiletries in the bathroom we now definitely shared, my clothes in half the closet. It looks right, Ethan said, surveying our now shared room, like you were always meant to be here. Maybe I was. On New Year's Eve, we stayed in, just the two of us. Ethan made an elaborate dinner, filet mignon, roasted vegetables, a chocolate lava cake for dessert. We ate by candlelight, talking about the year that had just passed and our hopes for the new one. This time last year I was single and lonely, I said. I never imagined I'd be here now. With your formerly straight roommate. With my boyfriend, who happens to be my roommate, who I'm completely in love with. His eyes softened. I'm completely in love with you too, this has been the best year of my life. Even though it took us 5 months to figure out we liked each other. Especially because of that, all that tension, all that confusion, it made this even sweeter. When midnight came, we kissed on our couch and I thought about how different things were from when I first moved in. Back then, I never could have imagined this. Ethan had just been my attractive, straight roommate, someone to live with, not someone to fall in love with. But here we were. 1 year later. It's been a year and a half since I moved in, a year since Ethan and I officially got together, and I can honestly say I've never been happier. We're still in the same apartment, though we've talked about maybe finding a bigger place eventually. Ethan's mom visits regularly and has basically adopted me as a second son. My parents have met him and adore him. Ryan still makes jokes about how obvious we were before we got together. Work is good, I got promoted to senior marketing manager and Ethan is now supervising other PTs at his clinic. We've taken up rock climbing together, gone on weekend trips to the mountains, and yes, we still have our Friday movie nights. Last week, Ethan sat me down with a serious expression. I've been thinking, he said. That's dangerous. I'm serious, I've been thinking about the future, our future. My heart started beating faster, yeah. I know we're young, I know we've only been together a year, but Alex, when I think about my future, you're in every part of it. Every plan, every dream, every vision I have. Ethan. I'm not proposing, he said quickly. Not yet anyway, but I want you to know that's where I see this going, eventually, when we're ready. I felt tears prick my eyes, I see us there too. Yes. Yeah, you're my person, Ethan, I can't imagine my life without you in it. He pulled me into his arms and we just held each other. Sometimes I think back to those first few months, all the confusion, the longing, the fear that I was reading too much into every touch. And I'm grateful for it in a way, because it taught me that the best things are worth waiting for, worth being scared for, worth taking the risk. That straight roommate who kept finding excuses to touch me, he wasn't straight after all, and he wasn't just making excuses. He was trying to tell me in the only way he knew how that he felt the same way I did. And now here we are building a life together, learning each other, loving each other. It's not perfect, we still fight sometimes, we still have bad days, but we work through it because what we have is worth fighting for. Someone asked me recently if I ever regretted not saying something sooner, if I wished I'd told Ethan how I felt from the beginning. The truth is no, we found our way to each other when we were supposed to, and the journey, confusing and painful and wonderful as it was, made us stronger. So if you're out there wondering if that person feels the same way, wondering if you're reading too much into things, wondering if you should take the risk, take it. Talk to them, be honest. The worst that can happen is they don't feel the same way, but the best that can happen is everything. And believe me, everything is worth it. The end. Thank you for reading my story. If you've experienced something similar or if you're going through this right now, know that you're not alone. Love is messy and complicated and scary, but it's also the most beautiful thing in the world. To anyone struggling with their identity, questioning their sexuality, or afraid to be honest about their feelings, you deserve love, you deserve happiness, and you deserve to be with someone who sees you, really sees you, and loves you for exactly who you are. My name is Alex, and this is the story of how I fell in love with my straight roommate, and I wouldn't change a single thing. Subscribe to my channel.